This is a bad story. I'm here to present you with a bad story. According to the person in the Discord server who shared this, it was kind of difficult to find a story that didn't misgender the victim. So we're going to talk about it, and it's going to be bad. And instead of having like the thing that I insert in the video later that says, hey, like and subscribe, I'm just going to say up top, please do the YouTube interactions. I appreciate it even though this is a grisly story, okay? And the reason why I want to talk about it, even though it's just pure bad news, is I want to call to attention the fact that conservatives continue to do this whole, oh, what about the kids? What about the children? What about? Oh, you're a groomer. Oh, you're trying to target children and transition them. You know, they express all this concern about safety of children, but we're covering the story of the murder of a 14-year-old trans girl. So prepare yourself mentally for that. So the murderer has been arrested, to be clear. The girl's name was Pauly Likens. I think Likens, 14-year-old trans girl from Sharon, Pennsylvania, killed last month. Her remains were scattered in and around a park in western Pennsylvania. So she was murdered by what the coroner's office has ruled was a sharp force trauma to the head, and then she was dismembered. And yeah, like the guy Deshaun Watkins, allegedly met the girl in the vicinity of Bud Street Public Park and Canoe Launch in Sharon, Pennsylvania, and killed her, subsequently dismembered her corpse and scattered her remains in and around the Shenango River Lake. He has been arrested and charged with first-degree murder, aggravated assault, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. He is being held without bail in the Mercer County Jail. You will see the reason why we're talking about this in a moment. There is something dumb and awful about it momentarily. Don't worry, it gets worse. So yes, it's very clearly been ruled as a homicide. Social media, cell phone records, and surveillance video link this man to the crime. Additionally, traces of the girl's blood were found in and around his apartment. Vigil is being held Saturday 13. So, usually you would think, oh, okay, that's probably like a hate crime. It's probably a horrendous hate crime, like targeting a child. Yeah, I'm glad that they've caught him. Like, obviously, it's good that I want him to go away forever, right? I want him to be in prison forever or some equally terrible thing to happen to him. But the prosecutor says he's cautioning against calling it a hate crime, and that the Pennsylvania State Police do not believe it is a hate crime because the defendant admitted to being a homosexual, and the victim was reportedly a trans girl. So we're having a little bit of a similar thing that we did with the Club Q shooting, where the Club Q shooter was like, well, I'm non-binary, so it's not a hate crime. Which obviously, we investigated that at the time. We looked into it. There was no prior evidence of him identifying as non-binary. He did change his name when he was younger, but that was likely because he did not want to be affiliated with his father anymore and not because of like a trans thing. Like there was absolutely no prior evidence of him identifying as trans or anything. So like being gay doesn't preclude you from doing hate crimes against trans people. It turns out being gay and being trans are two different things. You can be both. Some people are both gay and trans, but like you can be gay and also hate trans people. Isn't that the whole point of the LGBT Alliance? I know that the LGBT Alliance has mostly straight members. Like, don't, listen, I know. But yeah, you would think that it's like the fact that cishet people are so dumb. Like they just don't know things, apparently. Like they're the kind of people who would say, well, I'm not trans, I'm straight. It's like, okay, well, just the word you're looking for is cis, not straight. But there's this like conflation. This guy's grandfather is apparently a Republican lawmaker in Colorado, still active. Wow, that's horrendous. He could be a serial killer for all we know, quite a brutal crime, maybe multiple victims. That is very intense and sadistic for a first kill. That is an interesting point. That this was the handling of her body afterwards is quite gruesome. So I guess it would be kind of surprising to learn that this was the first murder that this person had committed. But yeah, let's see. So this is still a developing story. This particular article came out only 2 days ago, and now it's the weekend, so I'm not sure if we're going to see any other significant updates. I'm curious, like, how old was this person? It does not say how old the murderer is. I'm presuming, given the charges and everything, that this is an adult. And like they said that traces of the victim's blood were found in and around his apartment, which tells me that this is an adult. It's like, why did this adult have access to this child? Cell phone records, social media, and surveillance video links Watkins to the crime. So like, was he attempting to groom this child? Or like, did he know her? I feel like there's a lot of details that we're missing right now of like, why, like, what was the connection between these two people? Yeah, this is why intersectionality is important. Transphobia in the queer community is very real and very awful, right? Even then you can still do a hate crime to your own community. Right, like, I guess I haven't read the details of hate crime law in every state, but is it the case that you can't commit a hate crime against someone who belongs to the same demographic as you? Like, I feel like you can still do a motivated, I hate this minority hate crime, you know? But I haven't read all the details of the laws, so maybe I don't know. Chasers do sometimes say they're secretly gay as part of their dumbass misogyny. Yeah, like, you know, I don't know. This person may or may not actually be gay, but it is like, without question, this person targeted a child and did horrendous things that are, like, I don't even want to repeat most of it, you know? Like, there are some details that I've just been like, okay, I'm not going to read that because it's just horrible. And, you know, we can hope that for so long as we're doing prison and retributive justice, we can hope that this guy gets it pretty bad. But I am curious to see if the further details come out of what's the history of the relationship, you know? Are there any other victims? Was this like a one-off thing, or like, has he been doing this for a while? Like, how long of a lead up into this was there? Did he just see her in public and decide, I'm gonna harm this child? Or like, did he know that she was trans? Because I think that that's the main thing that determines whether something is a hate crime. Like, did he know that the victim was trans, and was the crime motivated by that knowledge? That's pretty much it. So we don't have a lot to add today, but I thought it was important to talk about because, you know, I want to recognize that, like, children in our community are not safe. It's not just that if we deny these kids care, sometimes that messes up their mental health so much that they drop out of school, or they hurt themselves, or they, you know, stop showering and taking care of themselves. You know, like, there's like, those are the obvious ways, and those are the more common ways that trans youth are harmed, but it is bigger than just that. You know, it's like with Brianna Jai, you have to be careful that like some teenagers aren't gonna try to pretend to be your friend and then harm you seriously. Like, there have been other stabbing victims that we haven't even discussed in the UK. There was obviously Brianna Jai was a stabbing victim and she passed away from her wounds. There have been like 2 other situations recently where I think the 2 situations I'm thinking of were adult trans women who were stabbed or attacked by teenagers. Like, that's the weirdest thing, is like, what is up with these teenagers? Again, I don't think that this guy was a teenager. I think that he was an adult. But yeah, we're just seeing this increase in horrendous crimes. We've covered a couple of trans men who have been attacked and in some cases murdered on, like, one of them was like a date that the person was like, ooh, let's go on a date, and then killed him. So, you know, keep your eyes up, y'all. And be careful who you meet on social media, and carry pepper spray if you can. Like, don't go out by yourself, you know, do like any reasonable things to keep yourself safe. And make yourself available to vulnerable people if they seem like they need someone to talk to, or if they say they need, if they need someone to walk them home. My mind instantly goes to the incident with Nex Benedict. Yeah. Why is this happening to children all of a sudden? There was Nex Benedict who died from an attack in a bathroom, and there was that trans girl, Cobalt, who was sucker punched, and she was using a boys' bathroom, which is the one that conservatives all say she should use. There's also no comment from the parents in this article. So I wonder if this girl had, I don't know, did she have family support, or was she in a desperate situation where, an adult giving her attention was something she felt she needed? Mama says hate crimes are on the rise, but you wouldn't know it if you only watched mainstream news. We have to talk about people like Pauly Likens and Brianna Jai because otherwise they are ignored. Yeah. And, it's not like I'm psyched to talk about this situation or any similar situation. We need to highlight these people. We need to honor their lives and remember their names. Because apparently a lot of the articles that people in the Discord found about this situation were not using she, her pronouns for this trans girl. And this is why, this is why we have to honor their memories and make sure that the record is correct. So whatever your personal way of honoring the dead is, may her memory be a blessing, hashtag rest in peace, hashtag rest in power, hashtag say her name, whatever it is, take a moment for Pauly, and we're going to keep trying to forge a better world so this kind of thing does not happen. Because I would rather live in a world where this didn't happen than be like, oh, well, let's make sure that justice is served. Justice is, this doesn't happen anymore. That's a just world. That's a good world. There's one where this just isn't happening. Let's go ahead and stop talking about it, though, because it's a downer. Last month was Pride. Now it's time for Wrath. Thank you so much to my patrons, including Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Jack, Amanda B., Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Pasnell Infinity, Suzanne Maynard, Sojo, Jamie Jam, Dizzy Quiche, Jericho, Kevin Young, Liam Hodgson, Athiet, Elavie Nobody, Mr. Atheist, Elizabeth Bartell, Celeste, Nova, and Michelle Frattaroli.